Focus, Insight on the Southern University Ag Center. Welcome to another edition of Focus, Insight on the Southern University Ag Center. I'm Dexter Newman. We have a power-packed show for you today. And on today's show, we have Dr. Catherine O'Neill. She's a medical expert of infectious disease at Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center here in Baton Rouge. She'll be explaining to us the best way to combat COVID-19 and how we can boost our immune system to fight off this virus. We'll be speaking with Stephanie Elwood, an extension associate at the Southern University Ag Center. She'll be demonstrating how we can create a fall and winter garden during a pandemic. Also, medical marijuana is being produced at Southern University, and we'll be giving you the latest developments, research, and the final products that are being produced. All this and much more on this edition of Focus, Insights on the Southern University Ag Center. Keep it right here. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back. The coronavirus has taken the world by storm. As the death toll continues to rise, we caught up with infectious disease expert Dr. Catherine O'Neill at Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center. Dr. O'Neill, we're so glad that you could join us today, especially with so much going on in the medical field at this present moment. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm looking forward to the cooler weather. Hopefully our weekend will be a little bit better than it was the last couple of weekends. It's good to be Friday.
Oh, right. That's correct.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Doc. Yeah, well, look, let's get right to it. What are some signs? We're talking about the coronavirus, the novel coronavirus. People call it that. They call it COVID-19. But what are some signs and symptoms the public should be aware of with COVID-19 and hopefully protect themselves or the loved ones?
That's a great question. And it's really changed over time. You know, when we saw Mardi Gras hitting us and started to really hear about this thing, we heard about things that sounded like pneumonia, shortness of breath, and bad fever as the signs of COVID-19. But now we know that it's all the way from a mild cold and our allergy symptoms that we often have, all the way to feeling terrible and having pneumonia. So the symptoms are so broad that really, if you feel like you have a cold, if you feel like you're catching something, if you feel like you're coming down with something, you might have COVID-19 and you need to get a test for it.
Well, why does COVID-19, it hits the Black and brown communities the hardest? Why is that?
Yeah, I think two big reasons. Number one, COVID-19 is really, really hard on people with high blood pressure. The second is diabetes. And we have a lot of high blood pressure and diabetes, especially in our Black and brown community. Why is that? We could go on and on. We could talk for years about living in places where we don't have great access to fruits and vegetables, having a higher sugar content to our diet, right? Not being able to get access to medications that makes our blood pressure worse. There are lots of reasons that our communities may not have the best health. And right now, our baseline health is the most important thing to keep us from getting admitted with COVID-19.
Is there anything on the market that could help boost the immune system to possibly prevent contracting the coronavirus, such as some type of supplements?
Right. Nothing at all that can boost your immune system. You know what the best immune system booster is being healthy, walking, exercising, eating right. I could give you a whole bunch of vitamins, or I could put you outside probably around 7 o'clock by the time it finally gets cool enough, right? And start walking and eating better, and your immune system would be better in the walkers and the eating better than it would be on all those vitamins.
This virus is going to be around just like the flu, influenza. Is that?
Yes, sir. I think that what's going to happen, if we could predict, and we're not experts in this virus yet, but what it's looking like is that it definitely won't go away. This virus may be around all year long, all the time. That's what it's done to us so far. And we could expect it to stay with us. So our really only hope is that vaccine. So the next hope is that we stay healthier. We need to eat better. We need to stay away from each other, wear our masks, because if we don't have a vaccine, then really the only way to get through the next year is by adopting really great habits for ourselves.
As far as depression,
Have the numbers gone up? Would you be able to elaborate a little bit about depression during this pandemic of COVID-19?
That's a great question. We've worried so much about people's mental health, right? This is
Right.
hard on me, hard on you. It's hard on our kids. It's hard on everybody, and that leads to depression, and especially in people who might already have mental health issues, might already be depressed. This has been super hard on them. We don't have any great numbers yet, but what we do know from our own hospital's perspective is that we have seen more admissions to our mental and behavioral health units. So people coming in really struggling and needing help. We've seen those numbers go up. We've been very full on that side of the hospital. And I have to think, although I can't be sure, that it's part of just coping with all of this is hard.
Well, I know the parents hated to see this in the news, in media, on the internet, but some parents are concerned with the multi-symptom inflammatory syndrome in children, MISC. It's associated with COVID-19. It's claimed several lives, children's lives in the state already. Could you give us a brief description of MISC and what symptoms should parents and guardians and teachers be aware of?
Right. MISC is an immune system problem. So we all have gotten viruses our whole lives. And most of the time what happens is that you start to have a few symptoms. You don't feel very good. With our kids, they run crazy fevers for a little while, and then they're better. We go on with our lives. Sometimes when you get a virus, instead of just wrapping it around you and then coming back to feeling well again, you start having an immune system problem that takes it to the next level. That is not about the virus. That's about our own body. When our own body decides to take it to the next level and really bring a fight that's kind of too hard, our body decides to attack that virus too hard, it attacks ourselves. And so we start to see heart issues and lung issues that aren't because of the virus anymore, but because our body took it to the next level and it's fighting itself. It's a very rare thing when you think about all the people who get the virus.
Right.
You can't control it. When we find it, we can treat it. So I can't keep my child from developing MISC, but now that we know what to look out for, we can treat it and those symptoms can get better. So what we really need to do as parents, because I'm sure you and I definitely, you see your kids get sick for the first time when they're little and you worry so much. You know, should I bring them to the hospital? Is this going to be okay? Especially with some of those high fevers. But we still let them go back to daycare. We still let them go back to school when that's where the viruses are, because, you know, we have to let our kids live their lives. What I would do about this worry with MISC is I would keep a close look on your kid. If they develop an infection and they don't seem to be getting over it in the routine way, you need to call your doctor.
The medical care professionals that, you know, you guys on the front lines of the coronavirus, is there one situation, Doc, that has lifted you involving COVID-19, going through all of what you guys deal with on a daily basis?
Yeah. There have been so many situations. It's been hard on our team. You know, people need so much care when they're sick with this, and they come in so sick, and it's a constant rush to care for them. I think that the thing that has struck me, but it's happened more than once, it's happened over and over again, is the just immense compassion I see given to our patients by our team members. They know that their families aren't there, and those little things count so much. So sitting by somebody, holding their hand, you know, bringing in cell phones, trying to connect people, it makes you believe in humanity again. I've been really proud of our team and really proud of the way they've cared for everybody, all these patients. It's been a beautiful thing to watch.
Dr. O'Neill, this is going to wrap it up for us, but we're so glad that you could join us today. But we pray God will bless each and every one of you that are dealing with this, and that He will keep you throughout this pandemic and beyond.
We appreciate your prayers and your thoughts, and the same go out to you all. And thank you for having us on today. Let's all be safe.
Thank you, Doctor.
Industrial is one thing, but when you want to grow it for CBD content, that's totally different, because you have to go through the same, the same federal regs it takes to produce an aspirin. And if you've ever gone through that, I've watched this process, and it is very stringent, very difficult. And it has to be a clean crop. You can't use fertilizers, you can't use pesticides.
Lately, there's been much anticipation about Southern University's involvement with medical marijuana. Well, earlier this year, the Southern University Ag Center's chancellor and the dean of the College of Agricultural, Family, and Consumer Sciences, Dr. Orlando McMeans, he spoke to the Baton Rouge Press Club about the Ag Center's accomplishments, its future plans, and legislative agenda. After his speech, a Q&A session was opened up, and of course, most of the questions were about the Ag Center's research and plans with medical marijuana.
In anything we do, we have to think about all three mission areas. And one of the mission areas is not only just the production piece, but we need to also look at the research piece and the outreach piece. And the outreach is quite complicated in that we have to kind of demystify the myth of what we're growing this marijuana for. Because some people, when you hear of cannabis or marijuana in any frame, you know, you just think about the recreational use of someone out there doing this or selling or what have you. No, this is for medicinal uses, many of which I did not know until I had an opportunity to actually talk with an owner of a dispensary and to look at what type of ailments these individuals have, because being a Southern Baptist, we have our own mind about what we think cannabis is in medical marijuana. And so I had to be educated myself. I'm gonna be honest with you, I did. I didn't know, but that's the part of the outreach effort. We have to make sure that individuals know that we're not just selling this, for recreational use. And it's called medical or medicinal marijuana or cannabis.
On January 25th, Southern University released a line of hemp-derived CBD products called Alafia Healthcare. Let's fast forward a few months, and it was made official at a press conference held on Southern University's campus on July 1st, as Southern University, along with Alera Holistic Healthcare, became the first historically black university to launch its own THC medical cannabis products. This makes Southern University the only HBCU to make both CBD and THC products. Dr. Janice Snowden, Director of Southern University Institute for Medicinal Plants.
Being a biomedical researcher, I will say that there is an indescribable feeling that comes across you, when you hear these firsthand testimonials of individuals, patients, within the state, throughout the nation, across the world, who have started utilizing the medical marijuana as a form of treatment, but to hear them say how this treatment has helped them and given them a quality of life, is a feeling that, like I said, is indescribable.
In June, Governor John Bel Edwards signed legislation expanding beyond specific conditions that qualify patients for legal cannabis access under the state's current program.
Education will be extremely important, especially with the passage of recent legislation which allows any doctor who is licensed and in good standing with the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners to recommend medical marijuana to any patient with any debilitating condition. And this takes effect on August 1st, so I will say that the launch of our product today and this bill's passage is very timely.
Reporting for the Southern University Ag Center, I'm Dexter Newman. Coming up, Stephanie Elwood will be here to give us quick tips on how we can grow a container garden during a pandemic, right after this.
Welcome to another edition of Focus. And as promised, we have with us today Extension Associate with Community and School Gardens, Ms. Stephanie Elwood. Stephanie, we're so glad that you could be with us here today on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Stephanie, with this pandemic, how have you been doing with you and your family through all of this?
All is well. It's definitely an adjustment with the children. And I'm also seeing that a lot more people are interested in learning how to grow their own food.
So you have noticed that when you say grow their own food, more of a yard garden or more of a container gardening type thing at home?
I know that container gardens can be a good place to start. Even if you do have yard space, you can eventually grow bigger into your yard. But container gardens is a very good start space.
When putting something in a pot, what would you suggest? Plastic, terracotta? Does it matter?
Sure, that's a good question. So container gardening is huge. It can be, you can use anything recycled. Number one rule is you want to make sure that you have holes in the bottom for drainage. I recommend the bigger the pot, the less you have to water it. So the bigger pot you can have, the better. But small ones can work as well. You just have to make sure to water more often.
Okay. And to water the plant, how would you know when it needs watering? What's a good way to test that plant?
That's a great question, Dexter. So what you'll do with your container is you'll go over to it and you can actually lift it up or kind of lift it to the side and see if it's heavy or if it's light. If it's heavy, you want to leave it alone and walk away because you can overwater your plants and kill them. But if it's light, you need to soak your container garden till water comes out the bottom. Some people have been taught to water like a teaspoon a day or something. That is not the way that you water your container pot. That's not the way you water a plant. You want to soak it until water drains out of the bottom and then continue to check it. If it's heavy, leave it alone. If it's light, soak it again.
Now, what vegetables would you suggest? I know they've had several recalls on vegetables in the past. What would you suggest as something good to plant vegetable-wise in the fall?
Sure. So, we're looking at the fall, and we have had some recalls. And the best way to know what's on your food is if you grow it. So let's take romaine lettuce, for example. You can grow romaine lettuce in a container garden. That would be ideal. It's a head lettuce, which stays pretty small, and you actually chop the whole head off whenever you're ready to harvest and eat it. Mustard greens is a great container garden plant. Collard greens. You can even do carrots. Mustard greens and collard greens, you harvest those from the leaves on the outside. So that continues to produce for you the whole season. So it would be a really good option for a fall plant in your container garden.
Where could we place the container? What would you suggest? Patio? Or even if you lived in an apartment, where could you place this?
That's right. So with your container, whenever you're growing vegetables, you want to make sure that you have full sun, and full sun is 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. So that means when you look up, you want to make sure that you don't see a tree. You want to make sure that you're not looking at a carport overhang. You want to have this container in full sun.
And Stephanie, I may have jumped a little ahead, but as far as fertilizer, not the brand, but as far as the numbers that are on the bag, what would you say is best for a container garden?
And I would recommend something real even, 888 or 888 as they call it. That's something that you can put into your container pot. And whenever you put it, you don't want to put it too close to your plant because you can burn it. 1266 is also really good for vegetable production. So I would recommend the two of those as far as fertilizer ratios whenever you're putting them into your container garden.
Okay, and what about the soil? Is there a certain type of soil that we could use? Would you dig up dirt in your backyard and place into the container, or purchase pre-bagged soil?
Good question. No, you would not dig up native soil from your yard and put it into your pot because we want to make sure we have good drainage in our pot. So we would put potting soil into our outdoor pot. You can make your own. You can get it from a plant nursery. But you would want to use potting soil, not topsoil, and not native soil from your yard.
I know in elementary school, the teachers had us do the experiment with kidney bean to place it into a mason jar with tissue paper and a little water and watch it grow.
Yes.
But other than that, I've never really tried my hand at container gardening. And Stephanie, we want
better time than now, Dexter.
You're right. We got a lot of time on our hands with this pandemic.
Yes.
And Stephanie, look, we want to say thank you for joining us today on this edition of Focus Insight on the Southern University Ag Center. And we want to wish you and your family the best during these times and want you all to stay safe until next time.
Thank you. Same to you and yours.
Dr. Emma Thomas, a graduate of Southern University in urban forestry, has been chosen as the first female forestry technology professor in Oakdale, Louisiana. Our friends at KALB TV in Alexandria, Louisiana, have the story.
Slash pine, we have the Virginia pine. These are just the different types of pine trees that are located in Louisiana in this area.
At SOLA Technical Community College in Oakdale, there's a new professor paving the way in her profession.
To be the first Black female forest technology professor here is truly an honor and blessing. And it's also a huge milestone right now in my life.
This fall, Dr. Emma Thomas will lead the Forest Technology program, teaching students how to produce, protect, and manage woodland resources.
Always was one that was out playing in the dirt, planting trees with my grandfather, grandmother, and on the farm.
Students will also learn how to maintain and operate equipment and harvest raw forest materials to be turned into consumer goods.
Within the next 6 years, there should be a 5% growth rate with the employment. We have the micronut hickory, the cherry bark oak.
Thomas, who holds a PhD in urban forestry from Southern University, says she's excited to have the opportunity to pass on her love for the outdoors to other students.
Go for it. Don't be afraid. Step out.
In Oakdale, Rachel Penton, News Channel 5, your local station.
The Southern University Ag Center's annual State Livestock Show went on as planned. Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture Mike Strain came out to support it. Why is it so important to have this livestock show continued here at Southern University for the state of Louisiana and beyond?
Well, you know, early on, the number one reason to have livestock shows was to improve the genetics of our livestock. And so just starting there, take a look at the livestock in there. I mean, those animals are just magnificent. But also the tradition of having livestock shows in our young people, right? It's about our young people learning about agriculture. It's about our young people participating, and it's a family event. And here what it does, it ties vocational agriculture, it ties extension, it ties research, all of that together in a fun, competitive environment. So it's just a wonderful thing all the way around.
Kids from around the state came to be a part of Southern University Ag Center's livestock show. What made you decide to be a part of it?
The 6 pillars, and also respect and responsibility.
Okay. And also, what division did you show in, and how did you place?
I showed in the heifers show, and I placed first.
The Southern University Ag Center has been on the mark and setting the standard for the past several months. The United States Secretary of Agriculture, Dr. Sonny Perdue, was the keynote speaker at Fall 2019 commencement exercises.
We've got a lot of hungry mouths out there to feed, and our motto at USDA is to do right and feed everyone. That's why we need your minds and brains and heart and passion to help us do that.
Dr. Perdue, what role do you think agriculture will play in the future of 1890 institutions?
I think the future's bright. You know, this isn't your grandfather's farm out there. The technology, we're science and technology, engineering, math, mechanics, all of it's needed in agriculture today. We need bright young students like Southern University's graduated to contribute to the blessings of providing more food than we can consume. That's why we need trade.
The College of Agriculture continues to make strides. In spring 2020, the Chancellor and Dean, Dr. Orlando McMeans, brought to the virtual stage the Chief Student Marshal from the College of Agriculture. Take it away, Dr. McMeans.
Greetings. It is with great pleasure and admiration that I present our Spring 2020 Chief Student Marshal, Miss Irene Lily Lewis. She is a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and her parents are Eric and Mara Lewis. Today, she is receiving a Bachelor of Science degree in Agricultural Sciences from the College of Agricultural, Family, and Consumer Sciences with a cumulative grade point average of 3.9. Ms. Lewis says she was inspired to pursue her higher education at Southern University for several reasons. Her parents are graduates of HBCUs. Her mother graduated from Tuskegee University, and her father graduated from Southern University. Both shared their experiences of attending an HBCU and how it shaped their lives. In the fall of 2020, she will be pursuing a master's degree in public administration at The Ohio State University. Ladies and gentlemen, your 2020 Chief Student Marshal, Miss Irene Lewis.
When God has something for you, it doesn't matter who stands against it. God will move someone that's holding you back away from a door and put someone there who will open it for you. Now, this is your time.
I know this isn't the senior year you envisioned, and no one can replace the memories you had hoped to share with friends and family during this time. But even though I can't personally shake your hand at graduation, I want you to know how incredibly proud I am of everything that you've accomplished and the persistence that it took to get here. Congratulations, class of 2020, and God bless.
Our next guest is one of the first African Americans to have a nationally syndicated radio program. Many of you know him from his past radio show called The Countdown. Today, he touches millions of listeners every week with his gospel show titled Gospel Tracks. I met him through a mutual friend and my mentor, the late great radio broadcaster, Guy Brody. Our next guest is a dear friend of mine, and he's also my other mentor. I call him Uncle Walt. Let's welcome him to the show, Reverend Walt Baby Love. How's it going, Uncle Walt?
Oh, thank you so much, Dexter. It's great to be here. We're doing fine, and it's wonderful to be with you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you.
Uncle Walt, you know it's always a pleasure. But coming up next, we have a tribute to the late Congressman John Lewis. And I spoke with you a few weeks ago offline, and you mentioned to me that you had a chance to meet him. Tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about that.
Well, let me tell you, I met him 2 years ago. I went to do a speaking engagement for a nonprofit organization in Augusta, Georgia. And when the people asked me to come and be a speaker, but also be a host of this program, I said to them, "You said John Lewis is going to be there?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "He's one of my favorite people. I'd like to meet him." I said, "If you guarantee me I can sit at the same table with him when I'm not on stage, I will come and co-host and be the MC of your program." So I got to meet him that way. And he was very kind, very humble. Little did I know, he told me that he had been listening to my countdown for years and gospel tracks. And he said, "You know, I've always wanted to meet you." And I said, "Sir, it's my privilege that God has allowed me to meet you." And I mean, it just really humbled me, Dexter, and it was beautiful.
Uncle Walt, it's all good. And we want to thank you for being a part of this program. And we want to thank you for touching so many lives in media and in ministry through the years. You know how we do it, Uncle Walt. We'll be in contact through phone, text messaging, virtual, email. But until next time, God bless you, God keep you is our prayer. This is a segment we call Blast from the Past. We would like to pay tribute to the late Congressman John Lewis. He was a great civil rights leader. He's posing in this 2015 photo with the Southern University Ag Center 4-H Youth Ambassador. Her name is John Lewis. She spells it Jon. But however, they're not related. How ironic this is that they bumped into each other at an Atlanta airport. She was chosen by the Southern University Ag Center to travel from Louisiana to Washington, D.C., to represent and be a voice for her peers and to guide her community and others into living healthier lifestyles through nutrition and physical fitness. Now let's get back to John Lewis, the Congressman. He was the son of sharecroppers in rural Alabama. As a young child, he wanted to be a preacher, and as time went on, he became involved with the civil rights movement. Lewis was a part of the Big Six group who organized the March on Washington in 1963. 2 years later, he led the first of 3 marches from Selma to Montgomery, which is approximately 51 miles apart across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. As they were marching, a violent incident occurred. Law enforcement officers attacked the marchers, which included Lewis, who received serious injuries, including a fractured skull. This Sunday is now known as Bloody Sunday. But through it all, Lewis continued to fight for civil rights for all who were being denied. Congressman John Lewis served 17 terms from 1987 to 2020. At this time, we would like to say thank you for your service.
600 of us tried to march from Selma to Montgomery. I thought we were going to be arrested in jail. I didn't have any idea that we would be beaten. But I thought I was going to die on that bridge. I thought I saw death. And somehow, some force, and maybe God Almighty, kept me here to continue to find a way to get in the way and get in good trouble.
Well, that concludes another edition of Focus, Insights on the Southern University Ag Center. If there's any part of this program you would like to view in its entirety, it's available on our website and our YouTube channel. And while you're there, check out all of our social media outlets. If you have any positive comments you would like to share, email them to the address on the screen. You know, growing up and going to church on Sunday and also Sunday school, we were taught to end the class by saying, "May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another." Until next time, I'm Dexter Newman, and from all of us here at the Southern University Ag Center, stay safe. This is a statewide and beyond digital media production.